March the 5th, 1936, the Spitfire embarked on its maiden flight. Taking off from Eastleigh Airfield, it flew over Southampton water along the coast to Portsmouth before turning round and heading back. The pilot that day was Captain Joseph Mutt Summers, and his assistant was a young man by the name of Geoffrey Quill.
He went to Vickers Supermarine, where they were developing a new aircraft which at that time was called the Fighter. It didn't have the name Spitfire at that point. And his job was as assistant to Mutt Summers, who made the first flight in early March 1936, and my father was present at that flight and has given quite a good account of it in his book. And he then himself was allowed to fly the prototype Spitfire 3 weeks later, on the 26th of March. From then on, he became responsible for the test flying and development of every mark of Spitfire.
Little did Quill know that just 4 years after his first flight, he would be lining up with hundreds of other pilots to defend our shores. Fast forward to 2016, and air cadets from Hedge End were on hand to push the Spitfire out of the hangar. A stark contrast from what was expected of them in years gone by.
So the rank I hold, I'm an RAF officer cadet in the volunteer reserve. So actually a lot of the original Spitfire pilots in the Battle of Britain were volunteer reservists. So the Air Cadet organisation was formed in 1941, just after the Battle of Britain. And part of the aims were to actually foster an interest in the Royal Air Force, with a bid to get people to join up to help with the war effort. So we do have some really good links with this aeroplane.
Nowadays, Spitfires take on a much more commercial role, and pilot Matt Jones says that even by today's standards, it's a phenomenal aircraft.
It's the ultimate freedom, really. It's ironic because the aeroplane stands for freedom. That's its symbology. But from a pure flying perspective, it is the ultimate freedom. Unlike a modern aeroplane that has things that stop you doing things you shouldn't be doing, this will let you do anything, and it has an enormous amount of power, enormous amount of manoeuvrability, and incredible grace in the way it flies. So much so that you stop really being aware that you're in an aeroplane. And I know that sounds like a mad thing to say, but it makes it feel like you are a bird, or this machine is a part of you, and that's very, very special.
The importance of the Spitfire is undeniable, and on the 80th anniversary of its maiden flight, we can remember why it's such a special aircraft to so many people.
I think it's wonderful, and I think we must go on remembering just what an important part it played in the war, and how it turned Britain's fortunes. It was an immensely beautiful aeroplane.
It's absolutely beautiful. My interest in aviation started when I was 7. I grew up under the flight path into RAF Lynham, so I've been around military aircraft for quite a lot of my life, actually. And just looking at the design of the aeroplane, it's timeless. It's the noise of it, the sound of it, it just gives you shivers. It means obviously so much to the history of this country and our organisation as well.
It embodies freedom in so many different ways, and when I see the aircraft, I think of the people who flew it. When I'm flying the aircraft, I think of the people who flew it. I think how lucky I am that I don't have to fight it in combat, but I can understand why it was so good at the job and gave the pilots the tools they needed to defend the country.
Richard Ensten for That's Solent.